Hello and welcome to Social Creators. My name is Kyle Pierce. I want to give you a warm welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. This is a really crucial foundational training, the best place to start here, because AI is just lighting up what the possibilities are for business today, for growth, for scaling, because it allows you to customize your ads and your copy and your emails in your voice at scale. And you can build organizations now that have whole network charts of agents that do different business tasks for you while you sleep, while you work on the stuff that's deeply human that the AI can't replicate, right? So we're going to cover Claude today, but this will work with any AI tool really, just different ways of doing it, but very similar principles. So here's what we're going to cover. How do you make AI speak like you, talk like you in a conversational, natural way? Well, we're going to start by giving it a transcript of how you actually speak. Which is very important because we write in different ways that we've been taught in school, essays, in ways that no one wants to read. And so they want you to speak to them like you're having a conversation with them, one-to-one, like a friend, not a preachy guide, right? A guide that's a helper that can help them fast in an interesting way that's fun, right? So that's the foundation for content. Some of your why, your biggest success stories and lessons. And then deeper in your business, this will kind of be something you can complete over time. It's not going to happen overnight. If you don't have this stuff already, your transformational offer of how you transform people's lives, your brand story, the step-by-step process of how you change their lives. So that's a really important foundation. Some of your key methodologies, your IP that makes you unique, that codifies your expertise. And then case studies, right? Problem, solution, result, how you've helped people get the result, the metrics, the social proof, their story, right? In an interesting way. And then AI can leverage all that stuff, right? To create authentic content in your voice about what you've actually done. Like it's your chief marketing strategist, right? And then we'll look at how do you write copy that people actually want to read? How do you hook people in an age of attention deficit everything? How do you talk about big picture stuff to sell in interesting ways around a movement, around a mission, around a purpose, rather than just buy my thing, you know what I mean? Which no one's going to do if it's not interesting, right? So you got to let AI not be the average, not be this kind of slop content, wonderland, but like exactly how you would speak and exactly what you do and your story and your voice and your message and to the exact person you help, not this like grand global people, but like specifically who you help. Niching is more important than ever with AI. And then I'll talk about some of the tools I use for rapid learning. And I'm going to use a lot of voice dictation with Whisper Flow because you can 10x yourself with AI talking to it in your natural language versus having to type all day, especially when you're on your phone. And then I'll talk about AI canvases for big ideas, connecting different ideas you're learning, different pieces of your business to create really superior content, SOPs and stuff. And then I'll talk about AI agents for full agentic automation, the kind of frontier in early 2026 that is kind of showing a very interesting future in the next couple of years. And a wave that it's a rising wave you want to be riding. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf, as John Kabat-Zinn says. Mindfully surf it. And I'll talk about tools like Replit, AI tools, apps you can build. And then I'll end with a little self-directed learning tool I found. I wish I had 10 years ago. Amazing for learning and planning and growth as a human being. So I just want to quickly start here, and then we'll jump into Claude. But this is your brand voice analysis prompt. So the more you can give it, the better. But for this quick demonstration, I just want to grab it from this tool I link from a video. So this is specifically kind of like health wellness stuff. So it'd be a project specifically for health and wellness, for this voice. So it'd be an agent I could build that does my health and wellness content, let's say. So I want to put this into Claude and then have it analyze how I speak, okay? So super important first step. So let's do it. So now we're in Claude here. I'm going to share with you how you can use that transcript. So you just add it, boom, and And then we're going to pull this whole brand voice analysis prompt here. Okay. And we're going to paste it. And we're going to press that. And it's going to take a little bit of time because it's going to be doing a lot of processing for this. And I'll just move on. So keep this flowing here. But next up, you can add in more stuff. So this is just the voice. But this is kind of more going deeper into like knowing what your brand's all about, your brand story, your written content, some of your best converting content, any transcripts from stuff you've done that's really extraordinary. With that, stay away from podcasts if you're being interviewed by someone because it's going to pull in their voice too. And then I recommend adding some videos where you just talk free flow or just adding text with whisper flow of why did you start your business, the highs and lows of your business journey, a little bit about your personal life, hobbies, experiences that make you unique, some client studies, case studies that just show you, the expertise, what you do, how you get results fast, your content. You can use stuff in Google Docs. I'll show you how you do that. So that it's like always there, always being updated. If you change the document in Claude, it'll update. And then also I'll talk a little bit about this. So this is, there's a word limit, right? Depending on how much you're paying. If you have a free version, the memory is limited. If you're paying $20 a month, it has certain limits. If you pay hundreds of dollars a month, $200 say for Claude Max, then it's different, right? So you got to play around with these limits. I'll look at some hacks for that, but basically give it what it essentially needs is the best thing to do. And then your quirks, right? I love cats and dogs and animals and communicating with animals. So, I'll work that into some of my copy, some of my second brain as well, right? Find out what's unique about you, what's funny, what's creative, and let AI know about that in your second brain. Reference to travel, okay? So you can add some prompts here, and then additional stuff like really going deep. This is like your brand canvas, your brand story, your offer. It gets into your actual product or service that you're selling in the market. But that's what we're going to cover next. But let's check this out. So my voice analysis. So this was like wellness content around how people under stress start to breathe through the chest, shallow breathing, and it like reduces their sleep quality and their energy and leads to a lot of chronic problems. So it's kind of health wellness. So if I want to create health and wellness content, I would use this, right? If I wanted to create more business content, I would use a second brain or a project I'll show you to develop in a second, which is kind of like a custom ChatGPT, GBT, that is specific to what you want, right? Because you got to create these individual agents that kind of you use when you need to create a specific kind of content. So tone and voice, I'll quickly go over this. I'm warm apparently, I'm conversational and I'm accessible. I speak like a knowledgeable friend explaining something over coffee, never clinical or intimidating. The tone is encouraging and grounded. I'm a tech teacher, guide, hybrid, positions himself as someone who has done the research and the inner work, and is now passing it along, right? I'm just a guide and just a person, I'm not perfect. Not a distant expert, more like a slightly ahead of you peer who generally wants to help. I'm helping people maybe a few years, where I was a few years ago, right? And want to go faster. Energy level, calm but engaged. There's an underlying enthusiasm for the subject matter, but never tips into hyper urgency. So pretty good stuff, right? So I can copy this, right? This is pretty valuable. And I can create a project that now will speak like me, right? How cool is that? So let's go in to projects here. So new voice here. So let's just call it Kyle Pierce brand voice or whatever. All right, my brand voice. Now this is important. Like this, what is it for? Right? Like let's say my AI flow for creating wellness content or scripts on YouTube, right? So if I want to have it speak like me for a YouTube video, then I just read it and it's read like almost like what I would have said myself. That is the ideal, right? So create that project. And then this is where kind of I think Claude is kind of kicking ass now. It's just easier to do a lot of this stuff than ChatGPT. Like I used to be a big ChatGPT user for years, and now I'm kind of mostly Claude and some other tools that integrate Claude. What I can do is upload from my device here. If I have a PDF, a Notion export, add the text content, right? So the text is just going to be called my brand voice analysis, and I'm going to paste that. So pretty decent. So for wellness content, that kind of thing. So there's that, right? So that's a foundation. But you want to go deeper into stuff like the brand story canvas. So this is kind of the foundational activity for building a business. That I wouldn't usually speak to startup owners and founders and in the accelerator and stuff without them doing this, because it's like the clarity they get from it is so valuable for me then to give them a path of what to do. So let's take a look at this. This comes from the Story Brand framework from Donald Miller. Awesome guy, best-selling author, sold millions of books, and then applied like the script that every great Hollywood movie covers, and great stories of the prophets of the ancient history of the ancient religions all cover, Jesus, Muhammad to Lao Tzu and Buddha. It's the hero's journey. It's why we're here, to be heroic in some way and live a life that matters, and this is really important because a lot of people in their attempt to sell and get in front of people and be seen as an expert, they compete their ego with other people's ego, and they say, I'm better than you, I'm preaching to you, listen to me. And no one likes that, right? It doesn't work these days in 21st century, except to a kind of like a primitive market, of like uneducated people that don't buy, or in many cases are a good market to build a business around, unless you're Coca-Cola or something, right? So you want to have, you position as the guide, the helper, right? To get them what they want in the world, their transformation, their dream, their vision. So you want to really get that right. Okay, so there's a template here. You can just go up top, boom, add to a free Notion account and go through what the transformation is. Because you're not selling transformation, no one's even going to listen, right? You got to have something big and a great story. And when you have this story internalized, you just sell by talking about the narrative and just being honest and true and authentic. And that's what storytelling is, right? It's what we are, storytelling animals. And this is an amazing framework. It'll change your life if you put it in action. And I'll just share with you right here, right? So you can see I went through for social creators. I do this for every offer I launch, every business I run, every client I work with. This is the foundation. And now with AI, it's a pretty darn good piece of content to put in your second brain. And then we got here the transformational offer. So, what is your genius? What is your purpose? Why are you here, right? What is that, right? Why? What is your greater purpose, right? This is what matters in this day and age. And so go through this process of who your actual customer is, your problem, whatever you charge, whatever your program is called. But the most important piece of this is this, the one-page cheat sheet. So you want to lay out what do you do? What do you offer, right? That's pretty important. And then I have an example of what I do a bit. So you see this here. Now, going back to Claude here. So what you want to do now, I have my brand voice, so it's going to be a decent. You want to prompt Claude as a voice. Like, this is the future. I don't even think there'll be keywords in a couple years, right? Especially with phones. Like, who wants to type on a phone, right? Maybe it'll have telepathy in a few years, but in the meantime, voice dictation will 10x what you're doing. So I just want to give an example here. So let's just say I want to create an article about meditating in the forest, okay? Something I enjoy. I want you to create a detailed guide to meditating in the forest, sensory immersion meditation, mindful walking, connecting with the animals, the birds, the plants, the trees, through the heart, through feeling, through heartfelt presence, not through the mind, the analytical mind. And I want you to lay it out. I want short paragraphs. I don't want any EM dashes. And I want it in my brand voice. And so it just sounds like I'm talking to someone, right? So this is whisper flow, boom. And we're going to kind of let that go, right? So some of the stuff I do, I'm passionate about being all in when you're on a computer and with people, and then all out when you're in nature to recharge from this crazy stimulating world we live in, right? So this is going to kind of go through that. I won't cover that. We'll come back to that. And then 5 proven copy frameworks that just work. So you can then say, okay, I want a copy framework, right? I want this not to be a post that's general information. I want it to be, so I'll paste this for later. I want it to be in this framework, an email, a product launch, a 7-step email process to get people to actually read, right? So that's when you're starting to look into a sales funnel, right? A scalable systems that work for you while you sleep and sell for you while you sleep, and then pre-qualify your market, right? Which is super important. So we'll let Claude crunch that on that. But these are kind of the 5 big frameworks used by, people since the beginning of time, but now since, business, online stuff, you have to hook people. You have maybe 3 seconds if you're lucky with that hook. So that's pretty important. Otherwise, no one reads on, and the rest of the content was, wasted time if the hook's not good. So let's go deeper after that. But this is Laurie Portier. I learned this from her, a $5 ad woman. And this is a really good framework that just kind of works for all sorts of things. So we're just going to let that kind of process. So it's doing pretty extensive research here, right? Claude is quite the tool. So it's going to write something, but it's going to be in my brand voice, right? But not entirely, right? Because I have not given it some more stuff, right? I haven't given it my brand story, my transformational offer in this niche. That's important. So let's just let it crunch that. But this is pretty important that you have this framework here where, this is going to be a kind of rundown how this would work, right? Because I think also with AI, you got to understand how it thinks and use different AI models and like proposition it and tell it, hey, why do you say that? Like, what's your reasoning? It's like a co-pilot, a reasoning co-pilot. And sometimes reasoning can be off, right? It's not perfect, or it's different than you would actually want. So this is really good where I kind of lay something out like an email, let's say. Here's how, I built the accelerator, got the first 10 people, without burning myself out. Boom. Something like that, here are the numbers, here's how you can do it for whatever you're doing. But again, having that ideal client in there so it speaks to the exact person I help, not the 100 other people that are kind of, this is kind of cool, but they're not building a startup, right? They're not trying to innovate in health and education and tourism. Therefore, they're not my clients. So I need to get laser focused on that. And so that's what your second brain can do. And then, yes, they can. You can too. Or that's super important to kind of give people permission to take the leap of faith and start learning. And this is not just for selling things. They're selling just people taking action, using free stuff like this, joining a community, right? People don't have a lot of time these days because the internet takes so much of it, right? And then this is the bigger thing, right? I'm going to say, hey, be part of a global movement of social entrepreneurs. Be supported by mentors that get it. Find investors that will invest in your idea when you can demonstrate traction. Be surrounded by other founders that support you, right? Don't go it alone. We are community animals. And if you're different, you need to be with people that are like you. Otherwise, you'll feel lonely and no belonging, right? I think as humans, belonging is the ultimate thing, right? In a world that makes that challenging sometimes, right? So anthropological is connecting to that big picture, the philosophical wrongs of the world and how to make them right, So here we go. So boom. So I wrote a post, like, looks all right, I'm not going to go through it, but like it's decent. And now let's say, I want to say here, I have a forest meditation retreat, a weekend, Sierra Nevada, Santa Marta in Colombia, and we're just going to unplug for 2 days at El Dorado Eco Lodge near Minca. All right, so say something like that. That's the experience. I spelled that wrong. Fix that. And then I say, I want you to write an email so I can announce it to my list, and that we're only allowing 6 people for this intimate experience, and I want you to use this framework. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. So now it's just going to kind of play around with that, and it's going to work on that. So we'll jump over here. But we'll kind of look at the difference, right? Because you play with AI, right? It's just a game, right? You're just playing with it and you're jamming with it and you're flowing with it. And so maybe that's a little too businessy, that framework, right? That's like a 4-step funnel kind of thing, right? Let's add that in after, right? And just see the differences. So you'll see the differences here. So let's just see, right? Like, I'm not a pro copywriter. I've hired many copywriters. I see how the process works as they interview you and you work with them over the months and stuff. And I've kind of learned my own ways, but like, honestly, like, AI is better than 80% of copywriters, you know what I mean? Maybe not the top 20%, right? But they're just using this because it's 10x faster too, right? So why not use it yourself, right? So I want to ask you something. Boom, good, a little hook, kind of, a little bit. I could improve that, but when did you last spend 2 full days completely unplugged? No notifications, no obligations, no noise, just you, your breath, something ancient and alive all around you. If you're struggling to remember, keep reading, please. I'm hosting a small forest meditation retreat, blah, blah, blah. We're going in for 2 days. We're not bringing our phone. We'll actually do it together, right? This is a pretty good email, right? And then let's look at the end. If you want one of the 6 spots, reply to this email with "I'm in," and I'll send you all the details, dates, costs, what to bring, logistics from Minka, everything you need to make this decision, right? So I just run some Google ads, say, hey, searching for stuff in Minka for hiking, Lost City Trek, Tayrona, ecotourism in the area. Boom, join us on this, right? Or my list, it could be turned into an ad, it could be turned into content, it can be turned into a video, right? I'll fill the spots in order replies come in. So if it feels right, don't sit on this too long. Looking forward to being in the forest with you. Speaking directly to the person, right? Very important, right? Now, I want you to, right, let's do this with the whisper flow here. So I want you to go and deeper into why meditation retreats like this matter, and end with a call to action to join this, and how it can be hitting the reset button on stress that's accumulated for years, and really be a life-changing experience, even in 2 days with the right people and the right experience. Boom, right? Pretty good. Let's let that go. And you know what? You don't have to make it, super, like formatted, right? AI can figure it out, right? It can read almost anything now in the form it comes in, videos, images, right? So pretty cool there. Let's let it process that. And then, yeah, I'm not going to skip that, but you can go through that if you want to, I'll cover it. So I learned this from Meg and GL. I don't really use it, but I include it anyway. You can kind of see how you can create content in like the kind of tone of people you follow. You can say, hey, I want Gary Vee, Russell Brunson, and Simon Sinek and Oprah Winfrey combined into some sort of new voice or whatever of this AI influencer I'm creating or something. I don't know. All right, just a kind of fun thing you can mess around with. And then let's cover this in a second, but let's go back here. All right, so this is going to follow that framework, right? So this is like way deeper. I want to talk about something most people never think to question. We treat stress like it's a daily experience and start fresh every morning. We wake up, stress accumulates through the day, we sleep. Tomorrow we begin running from zero, clean slate. That's not actually what's happening in the body. Stress is cumulative, it layers. And for most of us living modern lives with the deadlines, the screens, the noise, the pace of cities, the weight of decisions that never fully resolve, the body has been running a low-grade stress response for years, sometimes decades, right? This is chronic stress that leads to chronic illness. And at some point that becomes the baseline. It stops feeling like stress, it just feels like you. That's the part nobody tells you about. Boom, so pretty good, right? Boom. And it tells you, and he gets into some of his thinking here, which is excellent, right? All right, so I want to make this short. You could do a lot of this in the hour. Your voice analysis, start adding some documents here. You can put that into your project here. So let's go into the project here, right? And you see here, I already have all this stuff, right? Of course. And oops. And you can also give deeper instructions. I want you to write, a documentary script, for the wellness and nature or something. 1-page offer, that's pretty important, right? So we basically run startup accelerators for social impact ventures, connecting to social impact investors, help them gain traction, help them scale up where they're ready for investment and big growth and big change. Because so many things in the world, like 90% of what is built is never really achieving its goal, right? It disappears, right? And I just see so many people in nonprofits and all this stuff. it's never going to work, right? Unless you have a scalable model. It's not going to make a global impact. And so you have to build the systems, to get it out there and use money to invest, right? Google ads, Meta ads, it's 10 times faster than organic content. But you got to have the product market fit and the momentum to start to scale that stuff, right? So then we got the brand voice document, right? So anyway, so this is a little bit better now, right? Right, a little bit better. So and it just saves it, right? It's pretty easy, right? And you get my sidebar there. Boom. So basically now I can just paste it. I can paste it again, right? So I'm just going to show you with a different example here, but now it has more about my offer. So let's look at this, okay? You say, hey, we're launching the next cohort of the Social Entrepreneurship Accelerator. People that want to innovate in health, education, tourism, write an email about the launch using this framework, and go. Right? So it doesn't have to be too much, because it knows so much about me. I don't have to give it details and details and details, because it has that built into its second brain that I built, right? So it's going to use aspiration, anthropological combination. Let's go over this while it's doing that, right? So you saw the tool I use, Whisper Flow. Awesome. This is my affiliate link, so I appreciate using that. I get, I think, 20% or something. Poppy AI, also affiliate links. If you use that, it's a bit more expensive. More for entrepreneurs that are scaling, that want to create content, or they have teams that are creating the content, and they want to pass it off to the team. But not that expensive when you look at what it can do, I'll tell you that. OpenClaw, so a bit more expensive. You might have to get a Mac Mini. There's lots of cloud-based tools now that do what OpenClaw does. Everyone's launching them left, right, and center. Claude, right? I'm using the $20 a month version. I wouldn't really do it for business processes on a free account. I wouldn't recommend that. vidIQ, if you're doing YouTube stuff, like I'm a big fan of YouTube stuff, YouTube ads, video ads, you can advertise any video on YouTube almost. Super targeted, and this kind of helps you understand a bit of the keywords. This is a good tool I found helpful for identifying trending topics in your niche. Talk about, right? Things that are trending up, not down, right? That's huge for creating content. I wrote an article, I think last week, about Tayrona National Park's closure. We do business with Sacred Treks there, ecotourism retreats, that kind of stuff. And it was closed for 2 weeks because of the complicated political situations that are experienced in Colombia with indigenous people, paramilitaries, the government, military. So I kind of unpacked that with my AI second brain, kind of guiding it into a post. I think got almost 500 people in a week that were curious, why is it closed? So what do I do? What are the alternatives, right? Replit for apps is one of many tools, but I like it the best right now. Nano Banano 2 just came out. Images are pretty good, infographics, slides. VO3, I'm starting to kind of create documentaries here. And VO3 is a pretty interesting tool for that. And then I'm going to end on this, Notebook LM. So learning with AI, super important. You're only as strong as your ability to learn, read, learn, unlearn, right? So pretty useful tool for that. I highly recommend. So go into there. I'm not going to kind of go into all these tools because I want to make it quick and easy here for you just to take action and start doing this, right? So here we go. The world doesn't need more ideas, it needs yours, okay? Maybe a little bit too much, but boom, right? Most people spend their lives solving the problems they were handed. A few rare ones choose the problems that matter. There is a particular kind of restlessness that drives people like you, a quiet refusal to accept that the system works well enough. You've seen the gaps, you've felt the frustration, maybe in a waiting room that moved too slowly, a classroom that reached too few, or a community whose story never made it onto the map. That restlessness isn't a flaw, it's the raw material of every meaningful venture. So that's okay, that's not really what I'd say. So I'd probably tweak this, right? 80-20, right? AI can get you 80% of the way there, but then you got to add your personal touch, right? And now it's sending them a whole template here, beautiful, right? And then add in my brand colors and whatnot, boom, pretty impressive, right? Using the basic icons, application, right? So you see the power of this? It's huge, right? It'll change your life, right? And the people that adopt this have a massive advantage, a 10x advantage in some ways over the ones that don't. So that's basically train AI to work like you, right? So we kind of covered a lot of Claude here. You can use other tools. It's the same philosophy and principles, really, just different models, different ways they're trained. And if you want to kind of build this into something huge, into like agents that actually do it for you, work for you, have a whole startup hierarchy of your different departments that work for you while you sleep, that's what we do in the accelerator. So you can apply to the accelerator. On the about page, you'll see right here, boom, apply right here, and join us. I'd love to have you. I'd love to meet you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me in the chat up here. You can reach out to me. Just click on me right here, boom, and send me a message, and I'm happy to chat. If you have any questions, regardless if you even want to join, just ask me questions. It's for a very specific founder that's building health, education, and tourism startups. That's already got established something, not just for ideas. So that's what we do. Boom, right here. So go through this, change your life. I guarantee it if you do it. And the flow state method, if you want to kind of get more focused on what really matters in your life and remove those pesky distractions these days. And then this is the foundational document. Usually I don't talk to entrepreneurs until they've done this because this is the blueprint. And then you can create the offer quite easily from that. And again, AI can help these processes. There's some cool stuff in here that can help you do with AI, but it's got to be in your voice. You got to go over it. It's got to be who you are. Otherwise, it's going to ring hollow and sound like everyone else. Sold out experienced AI playbooks. If you do experiences, retreats, experiential learning, workshops, you can start to plan out the kind of mathematics based on the demand and how you would sell it, how do you promote it, that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, apply here if you want to join the accelerator this spring. All right, so thanks for watching. I want to thank you for your time and attention. I appreciate you staying to the end. And yeah, please feel free to reach out the second you have a question. I'm happy to help.